Thank you very much for coming out. I think you're all fairly familiar with the process, so we'll just get going. Councillors, we are in a special council public planning meeting Wednesday, October the 28th. It is 6:35. We are at St. Maximilian Kolbe Catholic High School. Councillors, may I please have declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, may I please have a motion to approve the agenda as circulated? Councillor Perry, Councillor Tom, all in favor? Contrary? If you could leave your hands up, councillors, because it's on the line here. It's hard to see. Thank you. The statement that I read in advance of a public planning meeting. Good evening and welcome to Aurora's public planning meeting, where we will be discussing the Highland Gate development application concerning proposed draft plan of subdivision, official plan amendment, and a zoning bylaw amendment. Before we will begin, I will outline the purpose of tonight's meeting, the public planning meeting process, and the meeting protocol. The purpose of tonight's public planning meeting is to provide information to the public and allow members of the public to provide comments. Members of council are here to listen to all the information provided. The process for tonight's public planning meeting is as follows. Town planning staff will outline the purpose of the planning application being considered. After staff speak, the applicant will be given an opportunity to make a presentation and address issues which have already been raised or concerns which are already on file. Following the presentation, members of the public will be invited to offer their comments or concerns respecting the proposal. Town staff or the applicant will answer the questions to the best of their ability. As a matter of protocol, all questions are addressed to the chair. We will track the questions and we'll try and answer them as we go along. We would request anyone wishing to speak to sign the register. If you could sign the register with Patty over there, it just helps us keep track and lets you know when your turn is coming up to speak. If you wish to speak and haven't signed in, again, if you could please go over and see Patty in the corner. Patty, stand up for a sec, please. Thank you, Patty. If you wish to receive notice of further meetings regarding this application, we request that you fill out a green interested party form that Patty is holding up over in the corner. The clerk's department have these. If you've already filled out one and from one of the previous meetings, you do not need to fill out another. In accordance with the York Catholic District School Board policy, tonight's meeting must conclude by 10 p.m. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes to provide comments, and we would request that you give your name and your address when you come up. Speakers will be called in order of the name as they appear on the registration sheet. Once we've heard from the members of the public, we will then open it up to members of council. Under the Public Planning Act, any applicant or resident has a right to appeal any decision of council on a planning application to the Ontario Municipal Board. To appeal, you must verbally express any comments or concerns here tonight, or submit any comments or concerns in writing to the town prior to council adopting an application. The Ontario Municipal Board may dismiss all or part of an application. Finally, this public planning meeting is being audio and video recorded. Your name, address, comments, and any other personal information are being recorded according to the Municipal Act and the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This information will assist our clerk in preparing accurate minutes and create a record that is available to the public, including the town's website. Any questions about this information collection should be addressed to the clerk. And with that, I will now ask the clerk to confirm that notification to the public has occurred as required by the Planning Act. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The required notice of public meeting for item 1, the proposed draft plan of subdivision, official plan amendment, and zoning bylaw amendment, Highland Gate Development Inc., 21 Golf Links Drive, files sub 2015-01, OPA 2015-01, ZBA 2015-02 was given on October 8, 2015, where notice of the third public planning meeting was published in the Auroran and the Aurora Banner newspapers. It was also given by mail to interested parties and all addressed property owners within a minimum of 120 meters, 393 feet of the subject lands. A notice of public planning meeting signs were also posted on the subject lands, notifying the public about the third public planning meeting. Public meeting notification has been provided in accordance with the Planning Act.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I will now ask the Director of Planning and Development Services to begin with the presentation. Mr. Romano.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll ask Lawrence Cook to come up to the podium and start with the presentation. Lawrence is the planner on the file, and he'll provide a brief overview of the applications before us, similar to the presentations we heard at the June and September meeting. Lawrence?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and members of the public. The application at hand tonight is the draft plan of subdivision, official plan amendment, and the zoning bylaw amendment at 21 Golf Links Drive. The proposed application had the first public planning meeting in this building on June 24th, 2015. And once again, a second public planning meeting was held on September 30th, 2015. And tonight we're here to review the application once again. And throughout the process, the proposed applications have been and will continue to be reviewed for consistency with the provincial, regional, and municipal policies. The owner is proposing a residential plan of subdivision over the 41-hectare parcel of land. The purpose of the amendment application are to redesignate and to rezone the subject lands to implement the residential subdivision. The subject land stretches from Bathurst Street to the left on the slide to Yonge Street, and to the south of Kennedy Street West. The subject land have the following designation: private parkland, environmental protection, and stable neighborhood. The owner is proposing to redesignate those official plan designation to stable neighborhood, public parkland, and environmental protection. The rezoning details that the owner is proposing to rezone to R2 second density residential exception zone, RA3 apartment residential exception zone, environmental protection exception zone, and major open space exception zone. A full list of exceptions are also noted in the staff report. As mentioned earlier, the owner is proposing a residential draft plan of subdivision, and in general, the owner is proposing 184 single detached dwellings and a high density block. Please note that approximately 48% of the subject lands are identified as parkettes, open space, and environmental protection areas. This plan shows the proposed subdivision just west of Murray Drive. And this plan here shows the proposed subdivision split on the east of Murray Drive. Staff has received final comments and conditions from various agencies. Both the York Region District School Boards have no additional comments and indicate no public school sites are required within the proposed development. Plus, the Fire Services has also indicated no objection to the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment. Infrastructure Environmental Services supports the use of low-impact development for stormwater management and have no concerns with addressing detail matters through conditions of draft approval. Parks and Recreation would like to have further discussion on parkland and open space issues, tree removal, preservation and management, trails and bioswales. The Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority are satisfied and all standing matters can be addressed through conditions of approval. And York Region have exempt the proposed official plan from regional approval. Note that all comments have been forwarded to the applicant and the Ratepayer Association. The urban design guidelines have been peer reviewed by the Planning Partnership. The transportation report has been peer reviewed by Poulis Chung Limited, and the environmental reports have been peer reviewed by RJ Burnside. And in general, all the peer reviewers have provided comments for consideration in the town's draft plan conditions. Planning staff have received numerous of concerns from the public. Additional details are summarized in the staff report, also posted on the town's website, www.aurora.ca. In addition, the owner have posted their presentation materials and responses to residents' questions raised in previous public planning meetings at www.highlandgateaurora.com. The next step, staff will finalize their review of the subject application and provide a comprehensive report at a future general committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Mr. Gibbon, I presume, for the proponent?
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council, staff, and members of the public. My name is Don Given. I'm a planner, and I'm speaking on behalf of the applicant. I have a few slides, nothing nearly as lengthy as we have gone through previously. I think many of the issues have been previously spoken to, so I only want to address a few things that have changed since the last time we talked. Dealing first with the staff report that you just heard your staff review. There's a couple things that we didn't have the last time. We didn't have a commentary from your peer review consultant on the hydrogeological work, and we didn't have the peer review comments on the urban design. We also didn't have the fire department comments. All of those now are indicating that the application in the form that we have can be dealt with through a draft plan of subdivision. And they have suggested wording changes in some cases for the urban design guidelines, or in some cases for like the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority, the hydrogeologist is suggesting conditions that could be considered during the draft plan approval process. So those are different responses than we had the last time, but they're consistent with the responses that we've heard from all of the other peer review agents or peer reviewers and agencies, all of which has said this application does not offend them, that it is ready for an approval, and an approval that can address any outstanding matters of detail through conditions on the plan of subdivision and the zoning. Nobody has taken a position contrary to that on the official plan, and nobody is saying hold up the draft plan and the zoning. So I'd like to speak to you first about the official plan. If I can get it up. One of the things that I listened to at the last meeting and got captured by the media is, how did we get this far? I'd like to remind you that when you look at your official plan, which is up on the screen there, what you'll see outlined in the orange color is the area that is the subject of this application. It is in what you call, in your official plan, private open space. It's not public, it's private open space. And you have a policy that addresses private open space. And the policy basically recognizes that when private open space is proposed to be developed for another use, and that's what we are doing, there are things that you have to consider, like an environmental impact, evidence that the proposed use is compatible, the official plan, secondary plan amendment will be necessary, and a plan of subdivision will be necessary. That's the process we are in. It was anticipated by your official plan, and we have followed that process. To implement that process, we met with your staff in what they call a pre-application meeting, and they provided us with a list, and it was a very comprehensive list, of all the types of studies that were needed to be submitted to support the application. We did that. It constituted several binders. It was submitted with our application, and it was those documents that you had peer reviewed or you reviewed them internally. But the application itself conforms with the intent of the official plan, which is that private open space may be redeveloped provided that you follow those steps. The second thing I would like to speak to you about is the discussions that are ongoing with the Highland Green Condo Corporation. And this is part of a range of discussions that have taken place since the last meeting. But I can tell you that our client and the Highland Green Condo Corporation believe that they have a settlement, and that settlement still has to be ratified by the board, so I can't divulge the details, but it is mutually acceptable to the two parties. And that should be available to you shortly once the board has ratified it. The next thing I'd like to remind you of is the extensive trail system we have. You have heard from several people, including Mr. Varenberg, that the trail system should be done in a different way, and we have had those meetings. My client has met directly with Klaus. And the key things that we would like to stress in this is that the trail will be primarily off-road. About 85% of the total trail is off-road. We can't go to 100%. We believe that that would be impractical. But we do have a connected system now going from Yonge Street to Bathurst Street. Today you do not. If I go backwards, and I don't know how to do this on this thing, but if I go backwards into this type of drawing, you'll see that there is no way you can get from Yonge Street to Bathurst Street without walking across private property, which is the golf course. With the development of this, that will no longer be the situation. You will have a connected system, and you can get from one side of the Yonge Street to the other side on Bathurst Street through a trail system. Today, if you want to go on the Oak Ridges Moraine Trail, you have a walk on sidewalks. It's all on road. We're changing that, and we're changing it in a timetable that's very different than your master plan contemplated. Your master plan contemplated that this connection might be realized by 2031. You can make that happen with this approval very shortly. The highlights of the trail, just to really brush over a couple of them, is the length of it, 7.3 kilometers of pedestrian trail. It's very extensive, 60% off-road, 85% accessible to the town-wide spine trail. The parkland that you get, we've talked about this before, you just heard it from your staff, is going to have about almost 50% of the total site in green, some for passive, some for active parkland. I think that that's going to be a major asset to the whole community, not just to the subdivision that is being created. And we've had discussions directly with the Highland Gate Ratepayers Association as recently as yesterday. And there have been ongoing discussions with residents within the community that are impacted by a combination of things like planting, grading, fencing, and even some encroachments. With respect to the latter, there's about 190 properties in the vicinity of the golf course that are impacted directly by what's happening on the golf course lands. My client now has sent out 100 signed agreements to deal with each of the specific situations that occur. And we have received about 50% of those signed back. That's an increase from the last time I was before you. We only had about 37 signed. We're almost up to 50 now. And we're continuing to work through those single, one-on-one type of negotiations with the residents. The type of treatments that are being discussed involve, in some cases, land conveyance to round out their property boundaries. In some cases, plantings. Fence replacement is common. Grading may be necessary in some cases. And in some cases, even some of the lot fabric is being amended to adjust some of their requirements. All of that is well underway. And then we've met directly, as I said, with representatives of the association as recently as yesterday. And we had direct discussions with them and their planner, Andrea Burry, for the first time. Andrea Burry, for those of you who don't know, is from the firm MMM, or which used to be called Marshall Macklin Monahan. She is their senior person in planning. She put on the table a range of concerns that we are dealing with. None of them seem to be insurmountable. And we established amongst ourselves a timetable to deal with them. It's an aggressive timetable because we would like to get this settled. And that timetable would have us meet again in the middle of the month, actually on the 19th at 10 o'clock if you're interested, to come back and deal with these aspects with the understanding that we are working towards having your staff prepare a recommendation report that we would like to see brought on in early December. And that gives us time to work through the discussions with the Residents Association and reach a compatible situation so that we have settled our situations between ourselves and them without you having to wade into it. We think that's good news. We were told candidly by the Residents spokesperson, Mr. Newton, Mr. Leclerc, that they're assessing everything with a sort of an open mind right now. And I think that's all good news. So we're very pleased with where we are. And I would like to urge you today, when you're looking at where we end up after tonight's discussion, to request your staff to bring forward a recommendation report, not to be tabled with your council until after December 1st, but to start preparing that report and do whatever is necessary to secure a date and do whatever public notices are necessary to ensure that we have a full public meeting when that report is prepared. So any outstanding concerns and any people that still want to speak will have the benefit of hearing what your staff have to say from an opinion point of view. You've been given a status report. You have not received an opinion from your staff on this application, and we'd urge you to get on with that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Just before you go away, if you could clarify one point for me when you're speaking with respect to the Highland Gate Condominium Corporation, and you said the board is working towards ratifying an agreement. I presume you mean the board of directors of the condominium corporation.
That's correct. We have submitted to the minutes of settlement, and they have to be ratified by the board.
Thank you, sir. I will now open it up to members of the public. We do have the list, and first up is Lorraine Cones. I just wanted to point out that there are indeed a number of seats up here, so for those of you who are standing at the back, if you wish to work your way forward and sit down. Ms. Cones, I'll just remind you if you could give us your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes. And there is a timer down on the floor.
My name is Lorraine Cohens. I live at 74 Fairway Drive, and we've lived there for almost 45 years now. Anyway, it was interesting to hear this man speak, Mr. Gibbon, I believe his name is, the developer. And I find it strange that he's received even as many signed agreements as he has had. I'm disappointed to hear that he has had even that many. Anyway, the October 8th Aurora newspaper had an article summing up what transpired at our last meeting in September 30th, 2015. According to the article, our town council made a recommendation that the, quote, proposed redevelopment of the former Highland Gate Golf Course to a residential infill development is a complex jigsaw, which should be split into smaller parcels for both residents and lawmakers to fully digest, end quote. In other words, a classic case of divide and conquer. I am not digesting any of it, and I'm against any housing development other than birdhouses on this designated greenbelt. This land is part of the Oak Ridges Moraine, and for that reason has been a designated greenbelt longer than anyone here present has been around. You may remember the old song, quote, they paved paradise and put up a parking lot. They put all the trees in a tree museum and charged people just to see them, end quote. Well, we are almost there. I have here a copy of a publication, York Region Matters. Inside is an article entitled, Healthy Trees, Healthy Communities. It states that, quote, healthy trees in our community can increase property values, help clean the air, reduce energy bills, and reduce healthcare costs. Recent studies found the trees in Markham, Vaughan, Richmond Hill, and Aurora reduce energy costs by $5.5 million and remove 923 tons of air pollution each year. Is this just one more propaganda, or does it really mean a commitment to the community? By the way, our Mayor Daw is pictured here. Is that significant? Does it mean that he is a proponent of the content of this publication? After all, he is also vice chair of Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority. And his own proclamation for the town of Aurora, dated June 1st, 2015, states that June is Recreation and Parks Month. I quote, whereas parks, open space, and trails provide active and passive outdoor recreation opportunities, help maintain clean air and water, and promote stewardship of the natural development, end quote. Did he mean only certain areas? Did he mean only in the month of June? As was pointed out by Jean Fraser, who's another speaker at our last meeting, Aurora has well-publicized policies that bear a commitment to a, quote, healthy green Aurora with stable neighborhoods, end quote. Somehow, the looming upheaval in my neighborhood does not bode well for stability. Now, Earl Bales Park on Bathurst Street in North York was originally a homestead and farm in 1824, and after 100 years became the property of York Downs Golf Club. In the 1970s, I believe, the golf course was sold and slated to become another housing development. Surprise, surprise. Tommy Thompson of Toronto Parks and Recreation rescued the land, and it now is a thriving parkland. Check their website to see the wonderful activities there to be enjoyed by all, whether it's skiing or snowboarding, lessons provided, or skating in the winter, or biking, hiking, splash pad, picnic tables, off-leash dog park, even an amphitheater, and other activities the rest of the year. Well, Earl Bales Park has it all. Aurora, can we do this? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. David Newton, please. And I think that we might have gone a bit over on the last speaker. Unfortunately, we don't have a timer up here. No, we can't see one. So.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Town Council, fellow residents. My name is Dave Newton. I'm president of the Highland Gate Ratepayers Association. I live at 37 Marsh Harbor. I'm going to try not to be redundant to the other meetings that I've spoken at. The members of the Highland Gate Ratepayers Association continue to have concerns regarding the development proposal being presented by Geranium. We have done our best to work through the vast amounts of technical information associated with this application, and as a volunteer organization supplemented by some modest professional input, that is not an easy task. We have also spent a great deal of time hearing from residents via a survey, meetings, and individual conversations. And as you can appreciate, there is no one solution to this proposal that will make everyone happy. The Ratepayers Association is concerned about the cumulative impact of this development in the heart of Aurora. These concerns have been expressed verbally at the June and September meetings. We're also mindful that residents are individually affected by this proposal, and they need to protect their individual assets. We have encouraged all residents to deal with their individual property encroachment and property impact issues directly with Geranium. This is the appropriate course of action to ensure that individual residents have a solution in place for their own property should the efforts of the RPA and others not result in broader changes to the proposal. It is in our opinion that these individual negotiations with Geranium do not detract from the broader community interests, and Council should not interpret a list of some 100 signed encroachment agreements as a sign that the Highland Gate community or even those individual property owners somehow agree with the current proposal. High-density mixed-use apartment uses are not permitted and are not an intended use within the stable neighborhoods designation. As such, we believe the proposed high-density development at Yonge and Golf Links, as currently proposed, is inappropriate. We believe that an alternative configuration and perhaps a splitting of the density to reflect other medium-density opportunities and appropriate nodes might be possible. Safe roads and a recognition that this community remains very auto-dependent is critical in this redevelopment proposal. Volume of traffic increases are real, and while the reports may indicate the minimum standards are met, the community remains concerned that these increased volumes will impact the stable neighborhood. Traffic flow and safety measures must be implemented. Road widths need to accommodate on-street parking. Nuisance issues like headlights glare due to road alignments need to be minimized. Notwithstanding letters from the Conservation Authority indicating their satisfaction with the proposal, the community remains concerned about the filling of natural heritage features, grading, retaining walls. Some retaining walls are 2 meters in height. The Ratepayers Association still has a mandate to address broad community concerns about the redevelopment. We are preparing a formal written response and will submit that to the town in the coming weeks. The short summary of our key concerns are as follows. The intent of the stable neighborhood designation is to protect stable neighborhoods from incompatible forms of development while allowing the areas to evolve and be enhanced over time. We appreciate that this golf course is going to redevelop in some form. However, Geranium's suggestion that the proposed development meets the compatibility principles outlined in the official plan, just because they're proposing single detached million-dollar homes on 50-foot lots, does not resonate with this community. The redevelopment proposal is aggressive. While a large portion of the site is set aside for green space, many fairways have a proposed new road and a significant number of lots. And we feel that this subdivision design has impacts on the community that are not acceptable and are not in keeping with the intent of the stable neighborhood designation or the development and design policies outlined in Section 8 of the official plan. We believe that a revised proposal that eliminates some of the most offensive new roads and minimizes the impact of the development on other new roads is a more appropriate approach. The constructability and implementation of low-impact development, bioswales, particularly as part of new rights-of-way and adjacent to existing residential. Additional discussion and understanding may help ease these concerns, but at this point in time, they remain. We met with Geranium this week, and we committed to an additional meeting and exchange of material over the next month. We are hopeful that a balanced solution will be forthcoming. As such, we ask that the council not complete a staff recommendation report until we have completed this process. December 1st is our commitment with Geranium. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newton. Sharon McMillan, please.
My name is Sharon McMillan, and my husband and I are the owners of 6 Highland Court. I've been a resident of Aurora for 24 years, 11 years on Marsh Harbor, then 5 years on Willis Drive in a Geranium-built subdivision. And 8 years ago, we decided to move from a subdivision to a larger, more private property and custom home on Highland Court. I can empathize with each and every person in this room, as my family has thoroughly enjoyed living in the Highland Golf Course area, and I hate to see it taken away. I am here today to address the proposed cul-de-sac extension of our street, as I believe that the homeowners on Highland Court have a unique reason to oppose the development. The mid-Kennedy Street West neighborhood is designated by the town of Aurora's carefully thought-out official plan as suburban residential, unlike the other surrounding neighborhoods affected by the development, which are designated stable neighborhood. Our neighborhood is zoned R1, which has a standard minimum lot width of 30 meters and lot area of 2,000 square meters, unlike the other surrounding neighborhoods affected by the development, which are zoned R2, which has a standard minimum lot width equal to 1/2 of R1 and lot area equal to less than 1/4 of R1. Highland Court runs south of Kennedy Street West and currently reaches a dead end at the golf course. The developer has proposed that our street be extended into a cul-de-sac to be zoned R2. This initially included 7 new subdivision homes. The developer has presented a proposed revision which consists of 5 new subdivision homes. We applaud the developer for recognizing that the homeowners on Highland Court are in a very unique situation with respect to the development. However, Highland Court is not a subdivision. It currently consists of 7 custom homes on approximately half-acre lots. We have made very significant investments in our homes. The site of the proposed cul-de-sac and any development would be highly visible as you drive down our street and would clearly be seen as an extension of our neighborhood. We strongly believe that any cul-de-sac extension of Highland Court should respect the existing R1 zoning of the street. Any proposal to the contrary would not respect and would not be complementary to our existing neighborhood. As a case in point, we would like to bring to your attention a precedent-setting cul-de-sac infill development in our neighborhood on Doty Street, where the zoning of the cul-de-sac lots respected the R1 zoning of the street that was already in place. 3 of the 4 lots on the cul-de-sac respect the R1 zoning. The 4th is zoned R121, which allows for a very minor exception in that the lot frontage is 4 meters less than the R1 minimum. We all know that the development business is a bit of a game. Initially, the developer asks for the moon. Then the developer attempts to settle for what is still the sky. The original and proposed development plans for the extension of Highland Court are a perfect example of this. The original plan included 7 lots in the cul-de-sac. including one lot that barely met the minimum area requirements for R2, let alone R1, and was approximately 1/4 of the minimum lot area requirement on our street. 4 of the remaining 7 lots were approximately 1/3 of the minimum lot area requirement on our street. The remaining 2 lots were only 58% and 73%. The developer was asking for the moon. The developer's revised proposed cul-de-sac extension includes the addition of 5 new homes. The developer is now attempting to settle for the sky. All of the proposed lots are less than 75% of the minimum required frontage on our street. If we compare the area of the proposed lots to the minimum area required on our street, 2 of the 5 lots are approximately 50% of the minimum, 2 are 70%, and the last is 80%.
You have 1 minute, Ms. McMillan.
Okay, the addition of 5 new homes on the proposed cul-de-sac would not be compatible with our community and would not maintain the primary character of our area. So the developer has asked for the moon and is now attempting to settle for the sky, but we are now asking the developer to come back to earth and to respect the R1 zoning of our neighborhood. If this were the case and we were to apply the required R1 minimums to either of the total frontage of the 5 proposed lots or the total area of the 5 proposed lots, there would be room for only 3 homes on the proposed cul-de-sac. That is 60% of the developer's revised proposal. In summary, we request that any cul-de-sac extension of Highland Court respect the R1 zoning and stable neighborhood designation of our street.
Thank you, Ms. McMillan. Susan Shaw, please.
Good evening, members of council and public. My name is Susan Shaw. I live at 66 Seaton Drive, and I am just outside of the area under discussion this evening. I'm here tonight to present you with a petition that has been signed by 350 residents and trail users in Aurora. This petition calls for the inclusion of a continuous off-road right-of-way for a looping trail running west from Yonge Street to Bathurst on lands that are currently under review in the Highland Gate Master Plan. The 350 signatures on this petition were gathered in just the past week and represent residents from all sectors of town, plus several hikers who visit Aurora to use our trails on a regular basis. And there are many more supporters. The handful of us who collected these names are confident that given more time, the signatories to this petition could easily number in the thousands. We heard a lot of, "That's a great idea, I'll support that," and "Thanks for doing this." And incidentally, there are extra copies of the petition here tonight if any of you would like to sign it. We are concerned about the potential loss of the continuous green corridor that has existed in our town between Bathurst and Yonge Street since the late 1790s and early 1800s. Although this green corridor has been in private hands since the land was first granted to early settlers of Aurora, and since has been rezoned for golf course and residential use, a much valued green corridor has continued to exist in this area for over 2 centuries for the enjoyment of residents, golfers, and wildlife for more than 200 years. This heritage off-road corridor, of which we are speaking, complies with the Oak Ridges Trails Association's preferred route, which was submitted to the town in 2003, the Ontario Greenbelt Act from 2005, the Region of York's Transportation Master Plan of 2008, Aurora's Parks and Recreation Master Plan of 2010, and the Town of Aurora's Trail Master Plan from 2011, all of which identify this area as a potential future location for the provincially significant Oak Ridges Trail and Greenbelt route, with possible linkages to the Nokita Trail, the Holland Valley Trail, the Trans-Canada Trail, and the future Lake to Lake Trail. What a remarkable opportunity we have here and now. The voices on this petition are saying this: it's important to us that our mayor and council implement the policies and values of Aurora's official plan, its Parks and Recreation Master Plan, its Trails Master Plan, York Region's Transportation Plan, the Oak Ridges Trail Association Master Plan, and the provincially approved Greenbelt Plan during its review of the Highland Gate Master Plan. Please note that 6 approved plans from local, regional, and provincial perspectives that have policy statements covering the lands in this proposed subdivision plan. On a more personal note, I have expressed strong dismay in 2 previous submissions to Council over the lack of diversity in housing stock represented in the Highland Gate Master Plan, as well as in all other plans of subdivision that have been approved recently within the boundaries of Aurora. I will continue to press for new options for community-based housing in other forums and venues to ensure that Aurora has a diverse housing stock. Diversity in housing choices is essential in defining Aurora as an affordable, healthy, and sustainable community for its residents, and I encourage the town, during its review of the Highland Gate Master Plan, to push the Geranium Corporation to include a more diverse housing stock. In summary, and on behalf of the signatories to this petition, I present this appeal to the Council and staff to maintain a viable off-road trail right-of-way within this long-standing green corridor between Bathurst and Yonge Streets. We're of particular concern of the area east of Murray Drive between Murray and Yonge Street, where the trail is primarily on-road, even though it's marked on the map as a green trail. It's actually on a sidewalk. This area under question between Bathurst and Yonge, as I said earlier, has been a heritage open space continuous zone that has survived for more than 200 years. We believe that a few practical changes to the current proposal would allow the proposed Highland Gate plans of subdivision to better achieve the goals and values of our town, our region, and our province. If the town doesn't act on this opportunity now, the ability to achieve these local, regional, and provincial goals will be lost forever. So on behalf of the signatories, I'd like to present this, I guess, to the clerk.
Yeah, if you could actually leave it with Patty at the back, that would be great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Kim Crawford, please.
Good evening, Mayor Dow, Town of Aurora members, council, neighbors, and friends. My name is Kim Crawford. I live at 109 Gulf Lakes Drive, backing onto the former 17th tee. My husband and I moved here almost 22 years ago and wanted to live in Aurora because it was a beautiful and green with open spaces. So we bought our house backing onto a golf course. We have been very happy with our property and our lifestyle until now. The proposal calls for houses to be built behind our home. I have a number of concerns. The loss of our green space, our trees, drainage issues, just to name a few. The proposal of having 2 3-story factoring in the walkout of a basement looking over our yards is unacceptable. The lack of parks and or pockets of green anywhere on golf links seems unfair. The small park Geranium considering at the northeast end is just land Geranium can't build on. I would like to know why it was not considered for more green space or park to be left at the west end of golf links on the southeast side of Murray. Why would a perfectly good existing tunnel that runs under Murray Drive even be filled in? Just to build one more house? Why can't there be a walking path linking our whole neighborhood? As I'm sure you're aware, our street got together years ago to have traffic calming speed humps built on golf links. When the street was built and designed, it was only made wide enough to have parking on one side, which makes it a very narrow for a feeder street. Our street is a feeder street for all the residents that live off of Trillium Drive as well as Kennedy Street West. Adding approximately another 150 or so houses puts the traffic on our street will only make the traffic concerns a bigger problem. In May of this year, we had a car crash into our front porch. In July, a car ran the stop sign at Murray, taking out a tree. 2 people left by ambulance. Most vehicles don't stop at the 3-way signs at the intersection at Murray and Golf Links. And now, cars are stopping for our new super mailboxes. As Golf Links is in the direct route between several schools, There is a racetrack of cars morning, lunch hour, and after school, which needs to also be looked at very closely as part of the traffic and safety planning. Which brings me to the proposed bridge that would be required to be built if the extension of Golf Links Drive was ever get approval. There is a beautiful water course flowing through there, homes to many forms of wildlife with rolling hill, which is part of the Oak Ridges Marine. Is the town of Aurora so desperate to infill that they would approve losing such a beautiful part of our neighborhood? The proposed 144-unit high-density condominium on Golf Links will only add more traffic and congestion to our streets. In the morning, you are lucky if you can drive east on Golf Links without waiting for a line of cars turning into Tim Hortons drive-through. How is the town of Aurora planning to address this already existing problem? Geranium has proposed a 10-floor unit, in which I really hope the town of Aurora has no plans to approve. Please don't make our neighborhood the first where you change the 7-floor maximum for Aurora. After seeing the artist's rendering of the glass box condominium, I fail to see how Geranium ever tried to make it look like it fits into our neighborhood. In closing, all our neighbors and myself bought our homes backing onto a golf course, hence the street's name, Golf Links Drive. We didn't buy on Infill Drive. We voted for you, and we are now looking for you to do the right thing by not letting this development destroy our precious gem we have in Aurora. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. Malcolm King, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is Malcolm King. I live at 14924 Yonge Street, Aurora. I am the president of York Region Condominium Corporation's number 692, and I chair its board meetings. Our condominium corporation is more commonly known as Highland Green Condominiums. We have 150 units. At the September 30th public planning meeting, my colleague Gary Grierson presented our board's position paper. I do not intend to repeat our position at this meeting. Last week, our board invited you, Mr. Mayor, and members of council to take a brief tour of the area immediately around our two buildings and the site of the proposed new condominium building in order to give you a sense of the issues which most directly affect us. We appreciate the time you took, sir, and the members of council who were able to attend took with us as well. At that time,